I talk to a lot of people and they're like, man, I just can't get to the numbers to work. Look at AirDNA, look at Price Labs. I tell them 95% of the properties that you see and you run through AirDNA, you're not going to get the numbers to work. You have to get creative.
How do we actually deliver great hospitality that gives us raving fans? Point number one, hospitality is a choice. It's not a line item. The second, surprise and delight your guests. That goes into the next point perfectly, which is what is going on, STR Nation? This is your host, the brother from another mother. I'm Manuel Pani, here once again with the man himself, Mr. Mike Riley. What's going on, Ralph?
I am doing awesome, man. It's been a good week. I feel like August has been pretty light on the STR side. Just like at least my company, the bookings have been down compared year over year, and I've just been talking to a lot of folks as to why. And short story is, most places school's going back like a week or two earlier this year. Usually it's like after Labor Day, but for whatever reason, I feel like schools are doing it earlier and earlier. So that would checks out for us too. Like today I had the kids are in preschool, so it's not like they're anything crazy, but it was like meet the teacher day. I was like, dang, it's August 21st. We're doing that. So I think all of us hosts out there are feeling it in August, but September's looking good. So it's pretty interesting. People are still traveling in September. Usually it's the opposite. It's like August, let's get it all out, and then September, no travel. But this year it's a little bit different. So just interesting to see year over year.
Yeah, I love it. For me, it's a little bit different. August is not as bad. September is pretty dead. It's usually the height of hurricane season, so there's not a lot of people in South Florida. But it is what it is. It's also part of getting your stripes, man. I think like surviving a slow season is where you get to really understand, hey, do I actually have a business that is a business worth its name? Or did I quit the W-2 or did I overspend because I didn't really understand that the seasonal money wasn't yet for the year, right? I think that's a big thing that a lot of hosts get to think about a little bit more. It's like, okay, as I'm building this business, understanding that the metric you build it on is the off season, is not season. So if you're cash flowing hardly, barely in season, that's not the time for you to chill. Job not done. You gotta go back and you gotta keep going until the job is done, right? But what I wanted to talk to you guys about this week, we talk a lot about hacking STRs, right? And we talk a lot about systematizing STRs. And we talk about a lot about how to spend less time doing it, how to build the team and everything else. And I don't feel that we have given enough credit, enough flowers to hospitality of STRs. Meaning, how do we actually deliver great hospitality? Like, how do we actually deliver hospitality that gives us raving fans? Because at the end of the day, right, to me especially, and I think there is different school of thought when it comes to who's doing short-term rentals. There is the folks that love people and love hospitality, and there's the folks that primarily love real estate and see STRs as a way to make more money. Right? Plus the tax loophole people are kind of mixed match in between those two. Right? Those are kind of like the two camps that we have. And so even if you're one of the 0 and 1s people, right? There's like get to it. All I want to know is how do I make more money? Delivering great hospitality is going to give you more money long term, right? So point number one, hospitality is a choice. It's not a line item, right? It's for you to really understand, has to be a priority, and it gets to be a priority. In terms of also like how are you handling every aspect of the experience? So this is taken from Unreasonable Hospitality, one of my favorite books. Riley just disappointed me and told me that he has never read it. He just went through the little cliff notes, but that's a different story for a different day. But the guy that wrote Unreasonable Hospitality says that service is black and white, hospitality is color. And so his understanding, as you guys are creating this check-in processes and this arrival instructions and your property, are you doing so in black and white, or are you actually adding color to your experience in a way that, especially now that people go to so many short-term rentals, can they tell the difference? Like, can they see your sparkle color as they book your property, as they check in your property, as they get their arrival instruction? Do they see color? Or are they seeing the same ChatGPT vanilla experience that everybody else is giving them, right?
I talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people want my opinion on the ones and zeros, the X's and O's, right? How much is this place going to make? The numbers. And it's I wouldn't say frustrating for me, but I talk to a lot of people and they're like, man, I just can't get to the numbers to work. I look at AirDNA, I look at Price Labs, I look at these numbers and I just can't get these numbers to work. And I tell them 95% of the properties that you see and you run through AirDNA, you're not going to get the numbers to work. You have to get creative and look at this house and look at the space and think about, all right, who do I want to attract? What type of person is going to come in here? You got to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's booking that home. You know, a lot of the times it's, you know, the female or the mom of the house if it's a vacation home. So you got to put yourselves in the shoes of that person who's booking and think about what type of experience would they pay top dollar for, like the highest dollar possible for, and what's the cap on that? And then how can you do that and repeat that over and over and over again, not just on July 4th, but like you said in September. And you can't ever come up with a true definitive number. There's no way possible you can look at a deal and say, all right, I know who's going to come here, but I know this property is going to bring in 170,000. Like you can't just like put a number on it. It's impossible. You never know. There could be a hurricane. There could be so many different things that happen. But when you put your creativity into place and you think about that type of experience you want them to have, your odds and likelihood of standing out over all the other properties out there are much, much higher. And your odds to hit, you know, those numbers you want to hit are much higher too. So, but it's all about that experience and getting creative first.
It's perfect. So the second point that I had is to surprise and delight your guests. But I also want you to think about leaving something for the imagination. Meaning, what are all those little things that you can do that are a vehicle to surprise your guests that they're not expecting, right? So I'm not talking about like delight people with the pictures, delight people with the things. Those are the things that are going to get them there. Where you get to create a remarkable experience for people, a memorable experience, is when you surprise them and delight them when they're least expecting, right? May they be the little knickknacks that you put in the property. May they be the note. May they be the bread basket that you get dropped off the next day. May there be something about them or like a custom thing that you make for them. Obviously, talking about like higher end properties, right? Like a custom things for them where you are going above and beyond in a way that is not documented in your listing, is not to be expected, is not to be a common experience that you would have in a property of your kind. But that's the little thing that you get to put in there that is going to leave a taste in their mouth that is going to make them talk about it, right? Because that's the other big key factor of doing hospitality in color, doing hospitality through delight, doing hospitality through surprise, is that those people are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the best ROI for you.
There's some little things like I remember the first time I got a hotel that had turned down service and I got back from, you know, wherever we were that day and there was like, you know, little cookies and, you know, our bed was made really well. And I think there were like bathrobe and slippers were like out and ready for us. So like, it was just, I came back and I was like, wow, that's really surprising. That's really, really nice. I'm gonna eat these cookies now because, you know, I got a sweet tooth. So it's a great surprise to have and think about that for each and every one of your guests.
The next thing, and this is going to go a long way because especially with us knowing that the mom or the female, as Mike said, is the one that usually books the property. It's understanding how can you make each one of your guests feel like a hero. And so for a mom, especially, right, understanding that, especially if you go after those larger family properties, is how can you anticipate her needs or her kids' needs? And how can you set up something for her where she gets to be a hero for her kids, right? May there be a thing on Nerf guns, may there be a thing of, you know, on paddle boards, may there be something, right? And understanding that by helping them by you being of service to them in their experience and anticipating their needs, you're going to put yourself a foot above the competition. And understand the whole point of this show is how do you get to be memorable enough that people are going to look at your property and see you as the industry standard as far as they're concerned for hospitality. So how can you be the Ritz-Carlton? How can you be the turn down service? Because turn down service for Airbnbs is a little bit creepy because nobody's going to want you to go in there and do it for them, right? But how can you take the same kind of stamp that experience gave Riley to your property, to your STR?
One of the things that we've done more recently is proactively offer an early check-in for free, like no additional costs. I know when I travel, especially with our kids, you know, we typically get in earlier in the day and it's typically like noon. And I'm always asking, hey, can I check in early? And I know just as being a host, a lot of times it's not possible, but This most recent time that we traveled, the host actually reached out to us and said, "Hey, it's open if you want to check in early." And I thought that was really unique, and we did. And it was just again an extra plus one. And then I was walking into the house, knowing that it was clean, one, but then also just earlier and sooner than anticipated, which everybody likes.
Yeah. And so that goes into the next point perfectly, which is how can you systematize the wow? So again, it wouldn't be secrets if we didn't tell you to create an SOP around the wow as well, right? But like excellent is about being consistently remarkable. So how can you systematize it? So for example, even if you have local partnerships with local vendors and restaurants and somebody does book something through them, how can you find a way to systematize a wow experience for them as they go out and do this experience that you created for them specifically, right? And again, I would rather you do less things, but to do them consistently and create the SOP around it so that you can really make sure that you are systematizing the wow over and over and over.
There's another place we're actually going in about 2 weeks in California where there's this kayak excursion that you can book through the hotel. And it's the same guy who's done it for the last 5 or 10 years. But he always knows when you show up. And we did this last year. We showed up and he was like, "So you guys are from North Carolina?" And I was like, "How did he know that?" Well, he talked to the hotel and got some information on us that we gave them and the check-in information. And again, it was they passed it to him. They had some sort of system that they knew on, how to share that information. And then when it came to, the experience that was with him, he knew how to go, above and beyond. He knew what wineries we were going to as well, because we booked those through the concierge at the hotel. So, little things like that. If you can think about what's that experience that you want every single guest to have. Like for me in my properties, a lot of it's hiking. Is there any hiking guides that I could offer? I really don't need to except hiking maps, but things like that you can think about to go the extra mile.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things that I have done in this last couple of weeks, I had a lovely dinner with a friend, and she had one of her best friends there. Her name is Julia. I think I'm gonna have her on the podcast, and I'll tell you guys why. So she's a chef, and she has worked for a 1-star Michelin, a 2-star Michelin, a 3-star Michelin, and she's done it repeatedly, right? And so obviously the moment I was sitting next to her, so happened that I was sitting next to her, and I was like, "Hey, what do you do?" Like actually the questions that I ask, I'm like, "Hey, what are you excited about right now?" And she's like, "Well, we're opening a new restaurant for this group that I work with." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. What's special about it?" And my obsession for the dinner with her was to ask her, "Hey, what is the main difference that you've seen between a 3-star restaurant, 2-star restaurant, a 1-star restaurant, and the ones that you used to work before?" And the 3-star restaurant, the crazy thing that they do, just like Mike was sharing right now, is the details that goes into the preparation for each one of their guests. So she told me that the 3-star restaurant that she worked for in Norway, would even go as far as research people on Instagram and then understand if the person that was coming to dinner with them was indeed their wife or was indeed somebody else. So that the restaurant would not make a gaffe of saying like, "Oh, it's so great to meet you, Mr. Riley, and your wife," when it wasn't his wife coming with him, right? And so that leads me to my next point, which is obsess over the details that seem small. Obsess over the things that you're like, they're never going to notice. And Hanan, which was my mentor when I started in STRs, we had this thing that every time that you walked into the kitchen of the Villas has this island, right? So you walk in, there's the island to the left. And the island to the left has a drawer and has a cabinet underneath it, and then it has the dishwasher right next to it. In that little drawer, we used to put the 2 dish towels, and the dish towels had to be perfectly folded, put together. And then our business card for the villas was 2 sides of a tennis ball because we were right next to the Chris Evert Tennis Academy. And so in the way that the ball was designed, it was designed front and back of the tennis ball. And so the front would say Courtside Villas, the office number, and the back would be the back of the tennis ball. So it would make a full tennis ball, and it would say, "Enjoy your stay." And the only thing that Hanan would check every time I had to go do the apartment, he will walk in. First thing he would do, he will open that. And if that wasn't exactly the way that he wanted it, he'll be like, "The apartment is not ready to redo it." I'm like, "How do you know?" It's like, "You didn't do this." I guarantee you it's not ready. Redo the whole thing. His thought around that was if we give a shit about the little details to such an extent that somebody opens this thing and sees this great detail of the business card being perfectly lined up, they won't worry about anything else afterwards. Because in their mind, they're going to be like, if they took this much care for such a small thing, all the big things are taken care of. So how can you obsess with the small details that seem insignificant, but they're not? The next thing is understand that nothing matters unless your team embodies a hospitality culture. Because it doesn't matter how great your systems are. It doesn't matter how great your property is. You will lose guests by the touch of your team. May that be your cleaning staff. May that be even the guy that goes to fix things. All of my maintenance people, all my contractors are trained to not call my people tenants, they call them guests. It's something that drives me absolutely bonkers. If a contractor is like, hey, is your tenant home? I don't have tenants. We don't have tenants. Dolce Vita doesn't deal with tenants. We deal with guests. We only have guests. We have owners and we have guests.
I've done probably about 20 interviews over the last 3 weeks for a role that I have open right now for an operations manager. I'm looking for somebody in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. And this woman I was interviewing, she worked for one of the largest ones down there. And I just asked, I asked her, I said, hey, well, why make a change? Pretty successful, good company. I mean, you're obviously, very successful there. Why make a change? She said, the culture here. When there's people around me that are literally cussing at guests or about guests and talking about how the guests are lying nonstop about there being hair or these guests are always complaining, that sort of thing. It gets draining. And hospitality is about the guest, and the guest is always right. And so it was a big telltale to me that these bigger management companies, I know I say this all the time, but it's hard to keep that type of culture when you do get so big and you're serving 7, 8 bedroom homes, but then you're also serving a 1 bedroom condo. It's just very, very hard to do that very well for all these different types of people and all these different types of homes. Right. So just like you said, the culture on the team is how the guests are being treated. If you treat your team a certain way, they're also going to treat the guests a certain way as well. So just be very careful and mindful of your language and, not cussing language, but how you interact with your team as it grows.
100%. The next thing is that repetition is what's really going to build your reputation. Your goal should be to be consistent 100% of the time. Lately, I've been listening to a lot of motivational YouTube things just because I realize as a mindset coach, I also love listening to things that make me feel a certain kind of way. And so unless I feel great and I know what music I want to listen to, I must rather listen to a motivational video. One of my favorite people to listen to is obviously Kobe, and things from Kobe and things from David Goggins has really grown on me lately in a way that is very interesting, right? By the way, little sidebar. Goggins just ran a 200-mile race called the Bigfoot in 65 hours. The man doesn't have any cartilage in his knees. So let that just kind of sink in, right? Like,
Yeah.
they are, right? That's one of the things. It makes you think of them that, like, what plays with my mind a lot lately is the fact that it's the limits. Like, what are limits outside of self-imposed beliefs that you have about yourself and what you can do, right? But one of the things that Kobe talks about is the fact that he always played 100%. And the reason why is, like, I never knew when there was going to be somebody in that stadium that was going to watch me play for the first and last time. And they might have saved tons of money to come and watch me play this one time. And so I owed it to them to put on the best performance of my life every single night. And so from that perspective, in understanding the repetition builds your reputation, is how can you install that in your culture and in the way that you look at hospitality and the way that you look at service. Even if it's a 2-day booking or a 1-night booking when you have a gap night, what are your standards? Do you let things slide? Are those people getting a cheaper experience just because the price is cheaper? And is that the type of company that you want to have? Is that what hospitality is to you? Is that the reputation that you want to have? Riley is nodding his head, so I love it. Next thing.
Couldn't agree more. Well, I mean, the only thing I was going to say is that's why I stay in hotels and in nicer hotels too, because I know the product and I know the product's very consistent each time. And STRs, we just don't have that level of standard yet. That's why. That's why I'm here preaching it every week. Let's get that standard up.
We're doing this show, right? Like, that's why I wanted to talk about hospitality, because I think it's the biggest thing that we get to do overall as an industry. I think we have this big gap in the middle of like the great hotels and the great restaurants and the great things really know how to do things great, and they share with everybody how they do it. And then there is this big middle that has just become so satisfied with just being average. Being like, you're getting a mid experience. That's what you're paying for. So that's what all we're going to do. And my question is why, right? Like, why is that okay? The next point is, and this is going to hit home for some of you, but it's use tech to scale, but never let it replace humanity or hospitality. So I remember on April Fool's, Guidara, which is the guy that wrote Unreasonable Hospitality, posted a picture, and it was an orange book that says Unreasonable Hospitality, but had like an AI thing on it. And it's like all of the things that I learned about using AI to maximize hospitality. And then you would go and click the link, and it's like, April's Fool, there's never going to be an AI that's going to replace hospitality. And so understanding that no matter how good the systems are, the human component of, especially if you want to deliver a high quality hospitality business, like a memorable guest experience, a luxury, once in a lifetime, memorable experience. Anytime people think of like North Carolina, NC States, that have that little smile that pops on their face because they're like, shit, that was the best vacation we ever had. Everything was perfect. No system, no tech stack, no host body AI. Nothing is going to do that, but people that care and they're committed to what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, you can't replace that. I mean, I'm just thinking about some of the best meals I've ever had in my life. The reason I remember those meals is not as much the food I ate as the people I was with, but then the people that served me. One of my favorite golf trips I ever did, I played Bethpage Black, where they're playing the Ryder Cup this upcoming September. And I can't tell you, I mean, I can tell you like one or two of the holes, but I can tell you every single thing about my caddy. He was 75 years old. He had stage 2 cancer. He was about 5'6". His name was Bud. And I mean, I could sit here and tell stories about Bud and the stories he told me for the next 30 minutes, but I couldn't tell you anything about the golf course. And that was just, he didn't have to do that either. I've had some bad caddies that weren't as fun, that just kind of showed up to do their job, and it just didn't make the experience as nice. And also, I didn't tip him as well either. I just tipped him the standard versus, Bud got it good that day, paid for it.
But again, how easy was that for you?
To pay him extra, and I didn't even think twice about it.
Right? It was almost like a pleasure. Because that's
it was
hospitality, right? Like it's pleasurable for you to tip well. It's pleasurable for you to take care of the property better. It's pleasurable for you to just, and it's the love reciprocity. Like it's an innate human response. Somebody goes above and beyond for me. It's human nature. I'm gonna think of ways to do the same thing, right? I can't help it. The next thing is design emotional checkpoints, not just physical ones. Understand that the majority of the time when people are coming to visit your property, it's an emotional choice. Especially if you're in a big, heavy vacation market, it's a meaningful thing. So how can you help them never forget how you made them feel? Because people are going to forget the things, they're going to forget the moments, they're going to forget some parts of it, but people are never going to forget how you made them feel. So regardless of what their experience is, and I know we preach, right? The check-in instruction and the things, right? But like, how can you, again, systematize? How can you really like systematize that wow experience, right? And creating an emotional checkpoint for them. And the way that I like to think also emotional checkpoints is for those of you that are really pushing on the direct booking side and really understanding like my brand is luxury oceanfront homes. It's maybe even sending somebody like a handwritten note when they leave that has a particular smell of your house to it, right? That they pull it out and they have this emotional reaction, this emotional pullback of like, shit, this smells like the vacation we took. Like I can smell the ocean, right? Because the best hospitality, and this is the last point, the best hospitality turns your guests into your advocates. And that is what you want. That is what you get to do. Because hospitality, when done right, becomes contagious, right? If the caddy wasn't as amazing as it was going to be, I'm sure Riley was way more pleasant of a person after that experience. Because that hospitality was contagious. The way that man took care of Riley and his friends made Riley a more hospitable person for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and I told everybody about him too, and I've even met random people that have played there too that had him as a caddy as well. And we shared some of the same stories. and it's a bond that I haven't been back since. It's probably been 7, 8 years, but I think about it a lot. Anytime I go to a course that has a caddy, I'm like, I hope I get one like Bud, right?
So think how epic that is, right? And then one of the last concepts that I'd like to talk to you about, which is something in a reasonable hospitality that he talks, is the 95-5 rule. And the 95-5 rule, if you read the book, it was around a spoon for an ice cream. And they were very concerned about like the budget. And he's like, I want these spoons. And they're just very peculiar spoons and they're very memorable spoons. And they're like, dude, that's crazy. That they're like 5% of the budget that we have for this entire ice cream little truck that we have. You want to spend 5% of it on the spoons. And it's understanding that the 95% of your effort goes to what's expected. And the 5% that is left goes to make magic happen. And so if your guests are giving you good money, how can you spend 5% of that money into creating some magic? So, Riley, any takeaways? I feel like I was very inspired on the show, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hospitality, dude, I've realized that I have 3 loves. It's hospitality, real estate, and mindset.
Me.
Those are the 3 things. Oh, and you, of course. Of course. Like those are the 3 things that I could talk on and on and on every single day. And it's such a lovely thing of being able to find something that like helps you do all 3 things. And so every day, dude, like I've been here for almost 3 months now. It's just August 21st. And I realized that one of my greatest luxuries of life is that I've built a labor of love. And that everything that I do because I love. And I don't need days off because I've built a labor of love and I've built a life by design. And I have a perfect schedule everywhere I go because I get to do what I love. And so the one thing that I want to leave you guys with is what is one small unreasonable thing that you guys can do from today on for every single reservation that's going to check into your property that is going to turn your next guest into a lifelong fan. Just like Bud turned Riley into a lifelong fan and made every other caddy since him feel like a subpar person, right?
Over par, subpar.
Yeah, subpar, over par. Sorry, I don't know golf well enough. But anyways, yeah. How do you get to do that? Well, guys, we'll catch you in the next one. Have a great week.